Hey Jules, how are you?
Good day to you, sir.
How are you? Good?
Really good. Good morning or good evening, depending on what time you watch this.
Yes, cool. So, do you know, actually, you were the first person I ever interviewed, ever, when I ran a magazine, like in 2002, and I phoned you up and you're on the motorway going somewhere for Radio 1. It was like all of a sudden,
That makes your life easy.
yeah, it was, yeah. Do you know, it was this person that you'd listen to on the radio, and then all of a sudden you're in my phone. It was quite weird, but yeah, it's quite cool at the same time. So let's jump into music law, and let's kind of just start. I just wanted to kind of start a bit of a background of, obviously everyone knows you as Judge Jules, the DJ, Radio 1 DJ, been around the world, all that kind of jazz. But I guess a lot of people might not know you as Jules, lawyer. And let's kind of just, how did that all start? And just kind of really briefly into how that kind of come about.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I never realised sort of 15 years ago that I'd still be as busy as I am as a DJ. So I think that I wanted to do something that I could still be doing in my 60s and 70s, and arguably DJing isn't that, although thus far it's all going very well, and it's that those late nights don't appear to be taking their toll. And it just seemed like I had a law degree from when I was a kid. And
right, cool.
On the sly, when I was about 35, I went back to night school and kind of redid my degree, because by that point my degree was very out of date. And then I did my professional qualifications. Didn't tell anybody, except one or two, my missus and one or two other people, because I didn't want anybody to think, most especially the people at Radio 1, that this is like me not wanting to be a DJ. But what I wanted to do was kind of do something that took all the experience that I'd got over the years, because of course I've not just been a DJ, I've been a major label A&R, I've been a promoter, record label, made records, kind of done everything. The only thing probably I haven't done at that point, although I slightly don't now, is be a music publisher. So when you've got such a sort of a broad range of experience, and you understand what it's like to be an artist as well, which is tough. You're standing there metaphorically naked in front of the world as an artist. I thought, if I could train and I could actually, rather than perhaps being a manager, for example, or something where one takes one's knowledge and one's insight and hopefully feeds it to each other people, I actually thought, no, let's go and train and be a lawyer. So I did it sort of on the slide. It took me about 6 or 7 years to do it.
Yeah. I
must say it wasn't it wasn't done like normal students, because I was sat in comfortable planes. Dare I say, quite a lot of the times that in business class, kind of looking at books. So I sort of substituted Bloody Marys for books, and here got to this point. So I've now been a lawyer for 6 years. I DJ every weekend. I still find it odd that I'm as busy as I am with the DJing, but they actually work side by side beautifully, because I'm a music lawyer. That's what I specialise in. I can do. There isn't really a transaction or a dispute in relation to music that I can't help you out with, ultimately.
Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. Well, obviously on my channel this year, we've been kind of giving youngsters just general tips and advice on how to get further in music and so I want to kind of pull into some of those just general stuff that people really get stuck on with music law. The obvious stuff, but let's start with those first. I guess the first one is, what happens when you don't get paid when you turn up to a gig? What are your rights, and what really should you do? I know you've kind of answered this in previous interviews, and I know, but not on this channel. So
Well, I guess first and foremost, the thing to realise is that you don't need to have had a formal written contract for you to have a contractual relationship with the person that you're in business with.
Right.
You can. If you've simply had a verbal conversation, it's a little bit more complicated, because then it's a kind of he said, she said scenario where it's your word against theirs. But you could certainly construct a contract for an email or a WhatsApp messaging chain, any way that you can construct an argument that you have a binding contract with the person on the other side. And generally speaking, even if it's, I will give you 150 quid if you will come and play at this address at such and such a time. That is a binding contract. Now, of course, when it comes to disputes over small amounts of money, you don't really want to be getting lawyers involved, because it's disproportionate, the fees.
Yeah, of course.
But there are certainly in this country plenty of mechanisms in place, small claims mechanisms to go away and fight that for yourself. There's a thing called Money Claim Online. It's found on the government website. Relatively straightforward to use. You submit it all electronically. You pay a fee, a court fee that's like a very small percentage of the value of the claim, and away you go. And I suppose on a more general level, on a less legal level, the one thing that I've learned, and I think most of my peers who've been DJing a long time, or indeed in any facet of the music business for a long time, will have learned, is that unfortunately people that you thought you knew and trusted do go bad. You know, and I'm not saying that shouldn't necessarily mean that all the people you know and trust will go bad. I'm sure plenty of them won't, but some of them I guarantee will. And you will need at some point to chase money from people that you never thought you'd need to be chasing.
Yeah, tell me about it. I do that every day at the moment. So especially the latter part of the year, it seems to be. Early part of the year, it's fine, but latter part of the year, it seems to be always the same. Yeah, so I guess is that the same? I guess I suppose the same rights when you're not if you're not getting paid by a label for music that you put out. I guess it's the same process. You've got a contract. You're claiming a small amount.
Yes, I mean it's a little bit more complicated if a label doesn't pay you and you've got a contract that's saying that they should be paying you, then you will reach a stage where ultimately you can grab your rights back to that recording. But it's not as straightforward as simply drawing a line in the sand and saying, well, you haven't paid me for a year, I take all my rights back.
Right.
You have to do a bit of back and forwards. And that certainly is entering the domain that you might need a lawyer to get involved with. And obviously, as with anything relating to lawyers, the value of the claim or the value of the transaction should be what determines whether you actually do get a lawyer involved or not. I mean,
of course.
But at the same time, there's plenty of other DJs, and in some people's eyes aren't musicians, but the reality is we are. And the Musicians Union has quite a useful helpline if you've got a relatively low value claim that they might be able to help you with. If you feel it doesn't necessarily merit going as far as a lawyer, because it might be worth a few hundred quid or even in the low thousands.
Yeah.
The minute it gets more valuable than that, it certainly is proportionate and makes sense to get a lawyer involved, because normally speaking, one can put these things to bed very quickly.
Right.
Very quickly, it depends on the person you're dealing with on the other side, but frequently one can. One should point out that obviously the fact being a lawyer in the entertainment business, predominantly in the music business, isn't just about sweeping up when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Almost more of my function is representing clients to make sure that they're in a contractual position that's so strong that if things go wrong, it's going to be a lot easier for them, and it's less likely to go wrong in the first place because you've kind of put them in a very strong position. So,
right. Okay. So making sure you've got things in place before you even start those conversations.
Right. It's a bit like doing this is a bit like being a sort of priest and a divorce counsellor in sort of simultaneously, albeit in different kind of transactions. And as long as I'm a priest more than I'm a divorce counsellor, then my week is good.
Good. Okay. Cool. Okay, that makes lots of sense. Yeah, I guess being organised, and I guess that leads on to what I kind of just been juggling around. I guess a lot of people, should they, once they start making money from music, should they then be set up as businesses? Should they kind of have all this like invoicing in place, lawyers in place, contracts in place? Should that all kind of happen as soon as they start making money? I know a lot of people sort of start making a few quid and then jump from leaving their job, and then it's like still asking for not doing things properly, and it's kind of should you do yourself as a business once you start making money?
You're certainly going to need an accountant, that's for sure. Dedicated music business accountants are a bit more expensive because there's less of them and it's more of a specialist skill. So you might be able to make do with a kind of regular accountant in the first instance, and then as your income and career develop, then you definitely need a dedicated music business accountant. And lawyers are kind of secondary to that, really. I mean, lawyers come into the equation when you start doing your key contracts. When you start doing, if you have a management contract, which is a very important one to have a lawyer review, record deals, music publishing deals. Those are the sort of
right.
The holy trinity, if you like, of contracts that one does within the music industry. There are other big ones, of course, public distribution deals. Of course, lots of people self-release now. There are various other bits, but the minute those type of deals come into the equation, because of course, in my own case personally as an artist, but also many other people's my clients' cases, you don't necessarily automatically get a manager the minute you start. But the moment a manager starts to get involved and starts talking about a contract, you would be extremely foolish not to get a lawyer involved, that's for sure.
Okay, that's good to know. That's really good. That's a really good tip. Because I guess some people wouldn't. They just kind of look at a contract, sign it, and then, yeah. Because I guess certain young people would start with management really when they're really, like, sometimes when they're really young, and they'd just be like, oh yeah, I've got a manager, I've signed a contract, and that would be the end of it, and they wouldn't have anyone look at it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it would be more fool the manager as well, because there is case law out there to say that if I'm a manager and I go to you and offer you a contract, you being an artist, and I don't allow you to get legally represented, then I have exerted undue influence on you, because the courts presume that a manager knows more about the music industry than an artist, and therefore I basically coerced you into signing it. So it would be equally daft for a manager, or daft stroke naive for a manager not to encourage you to get specialist legal advice. And these things are really, really important, because it applies across the music spectrum, but with management agreements, really small bits of wording can make a vast amount of difference to the relationship between parties, between the money that the manager can commission on or can't commission on. It's a really big deal. And having management is something I think is essential for almost all artists. As with everything, there are exceptions that sort of disprove the rule, but almost all of the successful artists that I know, both as an artist myself and as a lawyer, have got management, because basically, as an artist, you want to be focusing on creating things and performing. Yep. And also, you forge relationships in what is ultimately quite a close-knit industry with people, and you don't want to be saying the nasty things to those people you're doing business with, whether it's promoters, whether it's record labels, whether it's anybody else. You want your manager to be the bad guy. All done in a sort of charming and convivial sort of way, but nevertheless, you need a manager to be the bad guy, because they are going to forage better deals for you. So, on a more general level, you need a manager, but you most certainly need that management contract reviewed by a lawyer.
Okay, perfect. That's really useful. Thank you. Yeah, great. Okay, right. Let's go into some hot topics. I've been scrolling Facebook. The first one is takedowns on SoundCloud. A lot of people moan about these takedowns, and most of the time it's around either a bootleg or a remix that's not an official remix. It's kind of just, again, I suppose that's a bootleg. What are their rights? Are SoundCloud allowed to take them down? And should they have got that sample cleared?
First of all, on a general level, part of the legislation in the US and in the EU, when it comes to digital portals, showing copyright material, whether it's photos, whether it's music, whether it's film clips, it works on what's called the safe harbors principle. So they can put anything up, and YouTube's a prime example here. They can put anything up without doing anything illegal, but if somebody tells them that this is infringing content, they have to take it down.
Right.
So all of these portals will have somewhere buried in their kind of T's and C's, or in the menu bar that's at the top right, will have a page where you can say, this infringes my rights, I want it taken down.
Right, gotcha.
So, but also part of the same legislation gives the person who has been taken down the right of reply. So to that backdrop, we look at all of these things. Now, where SoundCloud's concerned, SoundCloud have, I don't want to, because it's kind of it's an evolving beast, if you like. So yes, SoundCloud originally hadn't cleared all the rights that are in the recordings that they were putting up. They've now done deals with most of the majors and a lot of labels. So the theory is that you should have less takedowns now than you might have done historically.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that from my point of view. We definitely we have we get labels to whitelist us anyway. But from our label point of view, we don't have a problem. But yeah, I see it less and less, I guess. And from my point of view, I use SoundCloud, but yeah, in the kind of broadest sense, YouTube, SoundCloud. All those kind of platforms that people share music on, I guess. Do you want to single SoundCloud out?
I hear, and I experienced it myself as a DJ. Where the problem seems to arise more is with Facebook Live now. Because yes. I remember doing a set at like 3 a.m. on a Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and I've got about 150,000 likes, stroke followers on Facebook. I did a live set from Ibiza at that weird time, middle of nowhere really, time, and I got 1 million people tuning into my set. So Facebook was obviously very proactively at one point, and one always has to kind of guess a little bit with Facebook because they don't tell you that much about the way they operate, nor do any of the other socials. I got 1 million people listening to this DJ set live. It was an amazing set of stats. They were obviously really pushing Facebook Live at the time. It was their moment of big competition with YouTube. But since then, increasingly, in my case, and I've heard it kind of through the grapevine as well, other people are increasingly having stuff taken down, which suggests that maybe there's different deals that have been done between Facebook and some of the kind of rights societies.
Right.
As compared to SoundCloud. But it is, it's a continually evolving thing. But as far as I can gather, the SoundCloud situation isn't as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, because that actually leads me on to one of the things from Facebook. This Shane from my Facebook page asked, when streaming live from Facebook, do I have the legal right to play my music anywhere because I've purchased it? And what gives Facebook the right to take it down or mute it and take it offline completely?
Well, the problem that Facebook have is that clearing rights globally in the there are two sets of rights you need to clear in public performance. You need to clear the rights in the song and rights in the recording, and you can do that you can do that en masse across a lot of territories. Let's say across Europe, more easily in the song than you can in recording. It's quite difficult to get a right to use these recordings. So it's really down to Facebook and indeed Apple as well. With the radio side of what they do, with Beats Radio, have got a really big job on their hands trying to get a clearance that works across the globe. And I'm sure if you went to obscure territories, you wouldn't be able to get Facebook Live at all. I mean, I'm speculating, but because it's that difficult, the reason they've had a thing called the Music Modernisation Act in the US, which was passed and signed off by our dear friend Mr. Trump only last week or the week before, was as one of the ways of chipping away at the fact you can't get the rights easily around the world. So we're in a state of flux with this. I don't want to get too boring and too legal, but we're in a state of flux. If I post something on SoundCloud, I do my I do my weekly podcast, I do all the other stuff. One just has to hope that there's enough rights cleared that it's not going to get taken down, because there's no way that all of these entities could have cleared it around the world, even in the obscure countries. It's a mammoth task that hasn't properly been addressed yet.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's good to know. I guess, we're the same. When I post our podcast, it's kind of like, is it going to stay up? Is it kind of, most of the time, because we're really, most of the music we play is really, really underground. So, and I do find normally it's the major label sort of stuff that does get taken down if it is going to get anything, if it's anything. The underground stuff, much easier to kind of keep online, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so the next question from Facebook, Matt would love to know, if you're DJing abroad, do you have to negotiate a different contract? Do you have to have visas? If you're about to play in Europe, do you have to have a visa? And can you play anywhere in Europe?
Well, God, that's a hot topic, of course. Well, I've just applied for an Irish. It's funny. It's on the news this morning that over 10% of the UK population, according to the rules, qualify for an Irish passport. I've recently applied for an Irish passport, which I genuinely do qualify for, because my grandfather was born in Ireland. What is going to happen beyond Brexit is anybody's guess. I mean, it's chaotic, to say the least. In terms of where one can put, right now, whilst the UK is still part of the European Union, I can go and DJ where I like in the European Union.
Yeah.
That doesn't apply to other territories. If I go to the US, for example, you need to apply for what's called an O1 visa. It's quite expensive. It lasts for 3 years. You need to get a US immigration lawyer to do it. Just about any artist stroke DJ that goes out to the US will have one of these visas, but there's quite a few hoops to jump through. What one does in terms of other territories depends on the territory. Some dare I say it, and I probably shouldn't, in some countries, in some more obscure countries, people could promoters turn a blind eye to it. In other countries, more developed dance infrastructure like for example, Australia, New Zealand, one would always get a visa. And they're absolutely used to the kind of immigration department, or in Canada as well. They're all completely used to the fact that DJs go on tour and go to these countries. In certain other countries, if you were to say, well, what do you want this visa for? It's for a DJ. It wouldn't compute, and therefore you'd either have to not go to the country or simply go in as a tourist. And that's the way it kind of works. And I think that would apply to most people.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I guess, and you for like America, I guess you'd need you'd need a lawyer for that. You can't just apply online.
You do. You need a lawyer, and you need a kind of local sponsor, really, who'd probably be your agent over there, or a promoter over there that you were working for.
Okay, that's really good to know. Thank you very much. And the last one, what's the last one? So Andrew, he just got ripped off for 10 million streams by an American label, and now they've gone bust. He wanted to kind of know, how do I protect that for future, and how do I protect his rights against it for future, and it doesn't happen again?
I'd need to know more specifics, really. It does seem quite remarkable that a label that generated 10 million streams would go bust, but then again, unfortunately, there are unscrupulous businessmen who manipulate the kind of corporate structures to do that sort of thing. I think the important thing to do is to be proactive. We mentioned earlier that all the online portals have got a takedown mechanism buried somewhere within their kind of menu. You've got to be proactive. The first thing to do is either take down or threaten to take down. You've just got to keep an eye on things. I mean, it's quite unusual, though, that set of circumstances, in terms of what I've experienced both as a lawyer and as an artist. So I think you've been unlucky. There may well still be money waiting there for you in the Rights Society. There may be public performance income,
right?
Both from your recordings, and if you wrote the song, there might be public. So you want to presumably you've registered with the PRS here in the UK for public performance of your song, with PPL for public performance of your recording, and MCPS. If you've registered with those three rights societies, and if you've got any degree of success as an artist stroke songwriter, you've really got to do that, then there may well still be money waiting for you in the locker, irrespective of the fact that this company's gone out of business, because Spotify and most of the digital portals deduct those payments. Well, they deduct the payments in respect to the song automatically. They don't go via the label. So they can go out of business all they like, which might have denied you some royalties on the recording side, but there could still be money in the locker for you.
Okay, good to know. So you might need to get a lawyer and generally look into that a bit further, I guess.
Well, you might need a lawyer, but in the first instance, again, it's quite a bespoke question, and it's difficult to give a bespoke answer without knowing more information. But the first thing you want to do is speak to your rights societies.
Okay. Good, thank you. You're going to get to ask the question a day to the audience. Whilst you kind of think of it, I'll give you a couple of minutes. Let me just, thanks so much for joining us. And crew, I hope you've enjoyed. If you've got value from Jules, please comment below. Really like to know what you've learned from this. And so, Jules, what is your question a day for the audience?
Well, it's a hot topic, and I'm sure it's been talked about a million times on data transmission, but it's the camera phones in clubs. Should there be a ban on people using the camera aspect of their phone whilst they're in clubs and festivals? Or do we just have to accept that it's the tide of technology, and we can't stand there in a chair hoping that the tide won't flow in our direction? Brilliant.
Thank you very much. Where can we find you? I guess if they want music law, where's the best to contact you?
Just Google me under my real name, which is Jules O'Riordan.
And I'll put those links below anyway.
Yeah, and loads of gigs between now and the end of the year. So see you out if you're there. Cheers.
Perfect. Thank you, Jules. Thanks so much for joining me.